Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cherry the Geek TV. I'm Joe Vanourney. Lilly Lives Alone is a new horror drama that's going to be available in theaters and on VOD platforms starting August 22nd. Today, we are joined by Martin Melnick, who is the writer-director of Lilly Lives Alone. And we're also joined by two of the actors, Ryan Jonze, who plays Jed, and we have Lilly herself. She's not alone tonight, Shannon Beeby. Ryan, Shannon, Martin, welcome to Cherry the Geek TV.
Well,
Well,
thank
thank you
you.
so much for having us.
Martin, let's set the film up for people. People
Sure.
are looking at the movie listings. They see a title, Lily Lives Alone. How do you describe it to people?
Yeah, it's a horror film about a woman who's having a really hard time on the anniversary of her daughter's death. She's haunted by ghosts from her past and ghosts from her present, and it's sort of a fever dream of a deep dive into her psychology. So it's a pretty intense film. Yeah.
Tell me the origin of the story. How'd you come up with this idea? What's the inspiration behind it?
Sure. A lot of personal stories working with my wife, who's also the producer, Sarah Johnston, producer of the film. We crafted the character and the story out of personal experiences and family history, and a lot of it sort of spawned out of this idea that we wanted to tell a very contained story about a person who was experiencing a lot of trauma and a lot of personal like self-discovery. In a small space. So a lot of it came about like what could we do as an indie film to tell the story in a small space, and um, sort of birth. Well, what if we let this movie get really weird and interesting and scary, and what if it was all in one spot, one tiny home? So yeah, kind of started from there and then just grew.
Now, Shannon, you play Lily. Tell us more about Lily, who she is, how does she fit into the film, and what about the script and this character spoke to you when you read it?
Yeah, I think I'll start with what spoke to me about Lily and the script is how she really is someone who at her core is trying to do her best and is has not been given the tools in her life experience in order to make healthy choices. And so I really enjoyed being able to have the layers or portray the layers of a person who is struggling with that, who's struggling with having like a a really genuine core of their being and how they want to like function in the world. But due to traumatic experiences in her childhood and in her life, she's really having a hard time figuring out the best way of coping with those circumstances in a healthy way. So I would say the other thing that drew me to the script was that Martin wrote it and he reached out to me and said, I wrote this feature screenplay with you in mind as the character of Lily, and I'd like you to read it. And I pretty much only needed that email. And I was like, great, sign me up. That sounds amazing. So,
I love the
um,
trust. I love the trust.
yeah.
Martin, what was it about Shannon that made you think of her when you were creating this character, Lily?
I want to work with Shannon and Ryan forever, if they'll put up with me. Well, so Shannon and Ryan and I met at a film festival in 2014, and became friends from there. And I worked on a post production on one of her films, and we worked on a short together. So Shannon starred in a short that I directed in 2018 called Circle, and it was sort of, I guess, like our little bit of a soft launch into working into some genre pieces together, and it just kind of clicked. And then um, when I first met her, she had been starring in a movie called A Demon Deep in Oklahoma, which is a friend of ours film, and it knocked my socks off. And because it's also a drama horror, and it showcased like this sort of nuance that Shannon could bring to a role that as a director, as a budding director, wanted to get to experience, wanted to collaborate with immediately. So it's kind of been a long-standing relationship that we've sort of built over time, and it just all came together when I was like, well, okay, if I'm making this film and it's it has a great supporting cast. It's not really a one-woman show, but in a lot of ways it's a one-woman show just because she's in just about every scene of the movie. It really needed someone who could carry the weight and in a respectful way of this character. We've talked about this before, that it's really easy to make a character where you're just sort of punishing the character for decisions they've made, and that was something that we were not interested in doing. That she has agency in her behavior. She makes bad decisions because she doesn't have a whole lot of options, but you feel for her as much as you're afraid of some of the things that she does. And so it needed someone who could. It's a really complicated balance to pull that off and make it real. And Shannon's incredible, and I just couldn't think of working with someone else who could pull off that fine balance.
Thank you so much, Martin.
And Ryan, you play Jed. Who is Jed? How does he fit into the story? And what about that character intrigued you when you read the script?
Yeah. So Jed is, I mean, he fits into the story. I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but like kind of a little bit of an antagonist to Lily's character. Lily and Jed are, there's a relationship there that and as a couple too. Working with Shan, we've done some stuff in the past before, but this one just really felt like it would be fun to play. Not the story is like, it's kind of a darker story, but I think their interactions and scenes seemed like like a good character. Martin wrote it. Shannon was in. I'm in. It was pretty easy decision to make, but yeah, he was fun to play. So
Awesome. Now, there's a lot of heavy themes in the film, right? Depression, grief, addiction, loss, trauma, isolation. As Arnold Schwarzenegger would used to say, it's the feel-good movie of the summer, right? Uh, but uh, Martin, when you're creating this script, right, you're spending months probably writing this script, tweaking it, living inside these characters' heads. That's a lot of heavy stuff, right? That you're immersed in for months, and then filming the movie, and then Shannon, you're playing this character. You got to get into this mindset, and over the course of the production and preparing for the film. How easy is that to cut off at the end of the day when you're carrying all these heavy things with you?
I mean, from a writing perspective, if you want to start, I was just going to say from a writing perspective, I'm able to not bring it with me afterwards. It really is a feeling while I'm going through it, and I sort of long for it because it really does like offer me some catharsis. There's just like a feeling of going deep within myself, and usually when I'm writing, I'm sort of performing the characters in my head as I'm writing, and I'm like having that interaction. Of course, it's never as drawn out as it is once two amazing actors have taken it and made it their own. But that sort of push and pull interaction, almost the closest I can kind of describe it is like having your interior monologue, like a debate within yourself, and allowing that sort of to explore any kind of line of questioning or exploration you've ever wanted to do within yourself. It just ends up being painful, but also really beautiful and honestly really relieving. So I really enjoy writing dark characters that are going through something, as long as I feel like Ryan said in another interview that the film, even though it has this all these dark themes, has this undercurrent of hope, and I think that's really important for me. Like even when things get really bad, I felt that while writing too. So it wasn't like this mean-spirited thing. It's this idea that real life is hard, and it can be really hard for certain people in certain circumstances, and it's not something that necessarily needs to be sugar-coated. It's something that can be explored, but explored with humanity, and I get a piece of that when I'm writing, so I get to have some of that emotional release that way, and I'm able to kind of flip it off when I come back out, and just honestly feel better about it, I guess.
And Shannon and Ryan talk about performing these
Yeah.
characters
It's funny because Ryan and I, we were having a conversation just between the two of us earlier. And we were talking about how we would describe it is you create a room for yourself, and how your body feels in that room, you know where you're at emotionally in that room, you know how scared that room makes you, or like all of the feelings that can give you. You intimately know this room. And then you figure out that there's a door, and you get to know that door really well. And then you really understand where the handle is, and you know how to get out of the room. And that's like a really important practice because as an actor, I don't think people always um, talk about giving you those skills of like how to get out of the room and then how to know where the door's at. The room is always there and that you can get back in. You know exactly like where to grab that handle in order to get back into that room and to fully be in that room again. If you're not, if you don't invest the time in the tools, I guess, to get yourself in and out, then yeah, I think sometimes you can feel like you have to stay in the room the entire time. And that is when I think it would be pretty disruptive to your nervous system, like as a human being, to like be in that headspace for a super extended long periods of time and like weeks on end. So I think that that's like a big thing is for us is knowing how to navigate out of the room, but trusting and knowing that you know how to navigate into the room. And then it just becomes strategy of knowing how long it takes to get back into the room, given the circumstances of a particular scene. You know, like sometimes it actually means you, speaking of your nervous system, you have to like genuinely elevate your nervous system in order to be in the appropriate place, like once you enter that room. And so you have to give yourself the right amount of time, but it doesn't mean you have to be like, okay, now I'm going to live in this room for 12 hours today. And yeah, that was has been
Yeah.
our discovery.
Yeah, and for obviously like for Shannon, she dealt with a lot more than I think Lily's character than Jed, in terms of some of the places that she had to go to. So we were just joking earlier too. It was like I was kind of an emotional support animal for Shannon too. Like after um, but and that's, yeah, I mean, she hit it, right on the head. It's just I do think sometimes if it depending on the character, if it's we're going through darker things or something, and at the end every night, kind of I'll visualize the character and as myself just walking down a dark alleyway into darkness, and then gone. And then you're sitting, you're like, okay, I'll see you later.
Mm.
You can come back again, um, because I was reminded that, Jed is dealing with his own pain. I kind of sometimes make him to be like, oh, it's like, it's a supporting role and lighter, but there, he's dealing with his own things. And Martin reminded, he was, talking about it earlier, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. There he's got
Yeah.
his own pain and that he's dealing with.
I actually, and on that subject, I feel like something it came to me when you were describing him as a antagonist. The word that came to mind, I feel like that could pair with that is a catalyst. I feel like Jed functions as a catalyst for Lily in this over the course of the film. Yes, there are moments where he could, be antagonistic, but I mean, like she's bringing it as much as but
Yeah,
for sure, yeah.
and
I
as
think she's
the other.
antagonizing him, but
Yeah, and the other character, like Jeffrey Combs' character, as the neighbor Russell too, in a very similar way too, I think.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
I'm curious because the film takes place basically in one setting, and the character goes from where she is at the beginning of the film to the end. As the film progresses, she gets more frantic, more manic. The darkness takes over. The lines between reality, this might be reality, or this all might be in her head, grows. Did you shoot the film chronologically? Was it easy, like, or did you jump around? Because when I'm seeing your performance, I want to give you credit. If I read this script and I said, okay, I'm going to play this character, I'd be over. I mean, you pray as an actor that you're going to get these meaty roles, and this is a meaty role, right? But at the same time, man, I'd be like overwhelmed. It's like I'd see this character and where the character got to go, and I'd be like, wow, this is such a daunting, overwhelming role, and you do it so well. So I'm curious, did you shoot it chronologically? Did you have to jump around? Was if you did jump around, was that hard to to know where your character was at this point in the film versus this point in the film?
Thanks. First of all, thank you so much. I really appreciate you saying that. And it, you know, I'm not gonna lie, like definitely like I was in that place like leading up to right before shooting. I had my share of like anxiety attacks where I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much. This is so much. And yeah, like really hoping that I was going to be able to pull it off. I think being able to do so, so to answer your more specific question, we didn't shoot entirely in chronological order, and mostly because there are constraints with other and Martin can share the specifics of like, but with any film, it's almost impossible to be able to shoot everything in chronological order. And so I wasn't, when I got the script or at any point anticipating that that is how this shoot would go. That would have been pretty wild. But going back to that room analogy, I feel like it kind of, have you ever heard those things of like people creating like mind palaces to remember, th like big things? I feel like it was sort of similar, where it's like you create really for myself, like over the course of this script, like creating rooms, like mind palace rooms, and then knowing what the journey was from one room to the next. So, like from one scene to the next, like what are the things that the audience may not be seeing that I'm experiencing internally, or, we jump in time, or maybe I think I'm experiencing something, but like connecting the dots from one moment to the next. So I know how to get from the downstairs palace powder room like up to the the second guest bedroom upstairs, and like knowing how to take that journey. And so anytime we were shifting in time, I could retrace those mental steps for myself in a sense. That's how I would describe it. And so I'm really grateful to hear from you that it read, you know what I mean? That it kind of does connect in a way, like for the viewer. So I'm really grateful.
Awesome. And Ryan, you mentioned Jeffrey Combs, who stars in the film as the neighbor Russell. Martin, talk about Jeffrey Combs. What a great actor he is. People would know him, of course, Dr. Herbert West from Re-animator and Star Trek universe. Was he always who you had in mind for that role? How did he get cast, and what was it like getting
He
to work?
wasn't always who I had in mind because I had no idea I could get him to be in this movie. So I didn't actually have anyone in particular in mind for Russell when I wrote the character. We always wanted to have somebody such a fun cameo, and it has weight but not a whole lot of screen time. I wanted someone that could carry it and bring something to it. It was honestly a shot in the dark to reach out to his agent and see, hey, would you be interested? And we sent him the script, and honestly, they got back to us like immediately. Like Jeffrey said, he really resonated with the script and the story, and he called me up and we talked about it, and he was really into the character, and I was flattered and honored, and it was like, oh, okay, we can actually do this. This is awesome. This is great. This is I grew up watching Jeffrey Combs. I'm a horror fan, obviously, but I'm also a Trek fan. So like the scope of characters he's played has been very instrumental in my upbringing, and so it was just it was kind of a dream come true. But the coolest thing about working with Jeffrey was not like wasn't to do so as a fan, is that um, I was sort of I hadn't worked with someone that I had admired for so long that way, like someone who was like who I started as just an admirer of and not someone I knew personally, but how much he wanted to bring ideas to the role, which was great. So like when we were sort of discussing, we had a wonderful costumer and great props for him. Everyone on set provided him a lot of stuff, but he also had his own ideas. So like he would send me photos randomly of 5 different pairs of glasses that he had and say, I'm really leaning towards number 2 here for Russell because I feel like because of this is why he had a whole like story for every little choice he was making. He's like, I think my hair should be out this way, I should have this much stubble, or I should be wearing this kind of thing. And just immediately I realized why people love working with him is it's not just that he's really generous as an actor and really kind and really absorbed, but he takes every role that he's given incredibly seriously and with a whole lot of respect. And he came to set ready to be Russell and ready to be in the role. And honestly, it was just absolute joy to work with. I really hope I get to work with him on another project in the future.
Not a big part, but man, he takes every line he has, and he's the where he's knocking out where he's talking to Lily through the door, and she's screaming at him, and he says the line, "Oh, there's no need to be rude." Like he says it in a way that only Jeffrey Combs can say
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Oh,
Uh,
you hear your dialogue. I was on. I shot the movie as well, so when I was on camera and I was sitting right next to him, and this is coming out, I was just, I, I was probably just, I couldn't see myself, but I probably just had a permanent grin the whole
You're
time.
like pinching yourself.
I was just like, oh my gosh, this is okay. This is a moment I got to remember forever.
Just how
Shannon,
he smokes his cigarette too. It's just
Yes.
Oh
like
yeah,
Yes.
everything.
Yes.
it's
Shannon,
great.
what was it like to do that scene with Jeffrey?
Oh my gosh. I honestly, Jeffrey is such a team player. Like he really is, like Martin is saying, he really comes to like he came to this project and from you can tell like every project that he works on, but with such generosity and commitment, like he's embodying the character, but he's also embodying himself as your fellow actor, and he's like wants to rehearse with you, like wants to like, hey, let's run lines, like let's run through this. He's in it because he loves doing the work, and it was just a joy. And then on top of that, like he's just a truly delightful human being, and like getting to hear his stories and how generous and kind and down to earth and wonderful he was and is. And so it was, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that Martin like reached out and was like made it happen, because it was uh you know a cherry on top for sure.
I'll ask this of the three of you, starting with Martin. What was the biggest challenge in making the film? And what was maybe an unexpected surprise, something you thought going in was going to be difficult and it ended up being a pleasant, oh, that worked out better than we thought it was.
Whew. I think everything was a challenge, so I don't know if I'm gonna have to work really hard on that last one. I mean, finishing the movie and getting to where we're at now, and getting to work with Dark Sky, which is a dream, and our sales reps, Yellow Veil. I mean, the finish line is honestly is the part that I'm like, not that I didn't think we would make it, just that when you're working on something for multiple years, and you're doing a lot, and you're just so hyper focused on making it the best it can be, you kind of get blinded to the reality that eventually you're going to have a movie and it's going to go out into the world and people are going to see it. And that is the coolest thing in the world, is to be able to share something you worked so hard on with so many wonderful people. So that finishing it, I guess, and putting it out into the world and it really being out into the world is that sort of not surprise, but just wonderful moment. Challenge, I mean, making an indie film, making a film that's tackling really hard subject matter, that has a lot of moving parts, and it's very performance heavy, and and you're also trying to entertain people in a small space, because that was also part of the aspect, is that the whole house and all this, the environment is part of is like a character in and of itself. So I think finding all that, and like you mentioned the chronological order, I mean, if budget and time was not a factor, I would love to have shot this as close to chronological order as possible. It was definitely a factor. You try to do it as much as you can, but the more you're on an indie budget, the more you're on an indie schedule, you really are like, well, no, we got to shoot everything that's in a bathroom this direction with this light now, because well, we just won't have time to do that scene at all if we push it to another day, even if it's not in the right order. So that would be a big part of the challenges, not just for Shannon, which she was somehow amazingly able to get into that same headspace. Ryan too, because all of their scenes were in different orders. But then we also, other forms of continuity. We shot most of the movie during the day for everyone's schedule. So, blacking out a house and designing everything to be at night is a challenge in of itself, and just making everything work. So there's just a lot of moving parts because of all the supernatural elements and the subjective lighting and the performances. It just was every day had a new challenge, but it was also very rewarding. So it was a fun challenge.
Yeah. I would say for me, the one thing that I maybe anticipated being harder, more uncomfortable, and then it ended up not was hopefully, so you can strike this if it is, but like that it doesn't reveal too much, but there's a point where I'm literally like taking a blood bath, like I'm covered in blood. You can just know that there's like a lot of blood involved. And I really, and like before shooting was like, I'm gonna be so sticky and cold and like, ugh, and it's gonna smell like minty. Like there was all these things where I was kind of like, all right, gear up for it, gear up, Shannon. Like, all right, here we go. And it ended up, it was like this amazing mixture of like cocoa powder and like gelatin and red dye. And they were so sweet and kind, and they like warmed everything up as much as possible. And so it was kind of like
Smelled like
just,
hot chocolate.
oh, no, it was like just taking a bath in like bloody hot chocolate. And so it really wasn't too bad. I was like, wow. And it just washed right off. It didn't even really stain the clothes that much. I was like, wow, I would not have pegged that to have been so pleasant. The blood bath. Yeah.
Poor Lily spends a good amount of the movie covered in blood or some other wound or some sort of some sort of
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
Ryan, how about you?
Yeah, for I mean, I had some time to think about it here. I was like, what do it, it was the line, shit. So this was Martin, was it based on an uncle or something? Like a relative of yours? Like
Uh,
I said.
I'm hesitant to say
Okay, okay.
a family member for sure.
Okay, no, yeah, maybe I think I made that up.
No, you're good.
There was it was this line was kind of like, and part of it was like Jed's dialogue. There's kind of this like, I don't know what you would, it's kind of hard to pinpoint that's up in like kind of like that. What would you call it, Martin?
I think we talked about it. One of the things that we talked about early on was like almost trying to deliver the whole character as if you maybe had like a mouthful of pennies or something like that. Like you had everything's just a little just you're not in the quite the same time base. You're a little bit slow
Yeah,
compared to almost everything. Just off, just a hair, just a little bit slower than everybody else.
had a few bong hits, and um, so that was my challenge, was that.
That one line. Oh man.
We're almost out of time. Before we wrap up, I always like to ask people that I'm talking to that are filmmakers, actors, directors, writers, what was the film or TV show or performance that you saw as a kid growing up that influenced you, that said, "This is what I want to do as a career"? Was there a moment? Was there a film? Was there a performance? Let's
Oh,
start with
it's a,
Martin.
it's a, it's a great
Yeah.
question. I don't remember one specific movie. I wish I did. One specific movie or instance where I was like, "That's what I want to do." Um, Honestly, really fond memories growing up. Like both my folks were working quite a bit when I was little, and the one thing that we got to do together that was like a real family thing was that we intentionally sat down to watch a movie, like usually one day a week, and that was like a time that was very, very important to me and very formative for me. And my folks were really into letting me watch stuff as long as I was contextualized with it, or they set the context for it that I could watch whatever. So like my earliest horror film memory is Poltergeist, and I mean movie's rated PG, so whatever. But it was scary to me. And I think I was like maybe 5 or 6 when I watched that, and but I was like just engrossed and thought it was really. I mean, I thought I was terrified, but thought it was beautiful, and it wasn't all horror for me. I mean, there were other films too, but I think as long as I can remember, I've always been sort of absorbed into watching films and understood and wanted to learn more about how they were made. So it was never like there was never a separation. It was like, oh, this is a movie. I understand it's a movie. I want to know more. Like, tell me more about that.
Shannon?
Yeah, this is going to be pretty random, but I remember watching I think it was made it might have been made in the 70s or in the 80s, I'm not sure, maybe even earlier, but it was the Pippi Longstockings movie. I freaking loved that movie and watched it on repeat, and I would reenact things. Like I would like tie like sponges to my feet, and like I would go I was an only child until I was 7, so I was really entertaining myself, and I would like reenact like saving like orphans from like a burning orphanage, like anything having to take place. And so I think that was like the first time I started with my fascination with make believe, and and playing make believe in a storytelling sense, like committing to a storyline and then go holding on to that storyline for weeks and weeks on end. And then really I didn't understand acting was a job. Like I come from a family of like engineers and like physical therapists and things like that. So it wasn't until I was in 6th grade and my grandmother took me to my first play that it clicked that it was something real people could actually do. And that's when I kind of honed in on like pointing myself in that direction.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I actually had said this earlier too. I was like one of the first performances that I saw where I was just like, oh wow, amazing. And wanted to be an actor was seeing Daniel Day-Lewis in My Left Foot.
Mm.
That kind of like, just I mean, and he's one of the greatest everything he does. But like, yeah, that was like one of the initial things that gave me like the acting bug. And then I like auditioned for it was like a local community theater trying to be Charlie Chaplin in like this like review play or something. And I had the cane and the walk and everything, and I didn't get it. But
He could have gotten it.
but
Should have, yeah.
but it was almost like that. Not getting it kind of like, inspired me more to get out there. Can I actually go back and the previous question, because about like the hard things and like, I don't know if you could edit in or whatever, or just like as it is, because I think it's actually interesting too for this, for the film and for like us being a married couple.
Mm.
And doing this, it was kind of like, that was actually, I think like a hard thing to an extent. Was, I don't want to give it away, but there's a moment in the scene, which, that it was like pretty intense between the two of them. And I think, just kind of like, we're acting, but we are, to separate that delineation between us being a real married couple and then like what happens, very intense thing. That was actually the thing that was the hardest, and the pleasant surprise, because having the support with, of Martin and everything, and doing that scene in that moment, I think was, it actually wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, which you probably, what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It actually seemed
Oh, yeah.
like, let me ask you,
Yeah.
like I felt like it the same here, like I anticipated it being harder, more traumatic. And then when everything is more technical, when you're actually doing it, and it almost felt easier. Like it definitely felt easier with you. Like at the end of it, I was like, I'm so glad that Ryan and I were the ones who were working on this together, because it felt the level of trust and familiarity made that way less traumatic, way easier, just like so many things that I was like, wow, that was better than I was anticipating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the final question, film's about to come out August 22nd. What do you hope audiences take away with them when they see Lilly Lives Alone? Martin?
I hope they take away something that they brought with them. So the movie has, some concrete answers for them, but it also is like a philosophical piece. So it also asks a lot of questions. And I've said this in other interviews, but the more you watch it, the more you'll realize what's going on, the more you'll sort of peel back the layers, and it will feel different to you. And even the ending will feel different to you, or it will mean something slightly different to you when you reapproach it. it really is a film that that rewards what you put into it. So it's a film that like is really a connection and a relationship to what you're bringing with you. So expect a time where you're bringing your own emotional sort of baggage with you, and you're going to have a relationship with this film because it's really going to ask some hard things of you.
Shannon and Ryan, what do you hope audiences take away?
Yeah, I think that empathetic journey that Martin is touching on is really my number one hope for everyone, that they can go on the journey with the characters.
Yeah, I agree with two of them.
Well, the film is called Lilly Lives Alone. It's in theaters and will be available to stream on VOD platforms starting August 22nd. Martin, Shannon, and Ryan, thank you so much for chatting with us today on Cherry the Geek TV.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.